Is the tush push a mass play? This is a common question from NFL fans regarding the Philadelphia Eagles and their now famous or infamous, depending upon who you ask, quarterback sneak. The tush push, or as some affectionately call it, the brotherly shove. This play, where the entire Eagles offensive line and sometimes a few extra friends helps propel Jalen Hurts forward for those crucial short yardage gains, has been a hot topic lately. It's incredibly effective, frustrating for opposing defenses, and has sparked a ton of discussion about its legality and whether it harks back to a more dangerous era of football. There was a chance it would be banned, but the NFL people who determine such things have voted to keep it. In any case, it's caused a massive uproar, and I'm going hardcore into the tush push in this video. We'll break down what it is, why it works so well for the Eagles, and most importantly, address a key misconception that it's a mass play akin to the brutal and eventually banned formations of football's early, much rougher days. We'll explore why the tush push, despite its appearance of overwhelming force, is perfectly legal in today's NFL and fundamentally different from historical behemoths like the flying wedge or formations you probably haven't heard of, like the guards back and tackles back formations. First off, let's understand what we're seeing when the Eagles line up for the tush push. It's called in a short yardage situation. Jalen Hurts is under center, often with 2 or even 3 players lined up directly behind him, ready to push. The offensive line fires out low and hard, creating an initial surge, and then the players behind Hurts add their considerable might, literally pushing him forward. More often than not, it results in a first down or a touchdown. The Eagles have honed this play to near perfection. Jalen Hurts' incredible lower body strength is a key component. Their offensive line, one of the best in the league, is technically proficient at creating that initial leverage, and the timing of the push from the players behind is crucial. Now, the controversy. Many have called for the NFL to ban it. They argue it's not a real football play, that it's an unseemly pileup, and some even raise concerns about player safety, particularly for the defenders trying to stop the human avalanche. The most common historical comparison you hear is to mass plays. This is where the historical context becomes important. When people say mass play, they're usually referencing formations from around 1890 to 1909, a period when football was a far more brutal and deadly sport. Plays like the flying wedge and formation like guards back and tackles back were all about concentrating overwhelming offensive mass at a single point of attack, often with players in motion before the snap to steamroll defenders. We're going to look at these historical plays because understanding them is key to understanding why the tush push is different. 1892 brought the introduction of the most spectacular play in the history of football, the flying wedge. Before the flying wedge, most teams were using a formation called the Princeton V, or the V trick, a formation that looks nothing like modern football. But the flying wedge was introduced in 1892 by Harvard against Yale. Parkhill Davis, a player, coach, and historian, wrote the book Football, the American Collegiate Game, where he described the play and what happened. The play was introduced on a kickoff, but it quickly becomes a popular scrimmage play run by everyone, not just Harvard. Now, in 1892, you weren't required on a kickoff to actually kick the ball to the other team. You simply kicked it to put it in play, somewhat like soccer. Here's the passage from Parkhill Davis. To the surprise of players and spectators, however, the Crimson, Harvard, did not form a V. Instead, B.W. Trafford, holding the ball, took a position at the center of Harvard's 45-yard line. The remaining 10 men divided into 2 sections and fell back to the 25-yard line, each section grouping near the sideline, but at opposite sides of the field. Without putting the ball in play, Trafford waved his hand, and the 2 sections came swiftly forward in lockstep, converging toward Trafford and gathering tremendous momentum as they ran. Just as they reached Trafford, the latter put the ball in play and disappeared within the mass of men, thus launching against the Yale men standing still in their tracks, the famous flying wedge. The flying wedge is a momentum mass play. It's not just mass, it's a group of men running before the ball is snapped at a point of attack on the defensive line. Keep in mind, at this time, there's no rules about players having to be set before the ball is snapped. There's no rules about how many players had to be on the line. Defensive players trying to stop the wedge faced a concentrated mass of bodies running at them while they were stationary. Injuries were horrific. Broken bones, concussions, internal injuries, and tragically, even deaths. The public outcry against the brutality of football, largely fueled by plays like the flying wedge, grew so loud that it threatened the sport's very existence. This led to significant rule changes. Around 1894, momentum plays were outlawed by requiring that players had to come to a full stop before the play began. Mass plays continued, such as those based on the guards back and tackles back formations. Offensive guards or tackles would drop back from their usual positions on the line of scrimmage just before the snap. They would then lead the charge, often with other backs, into a specific point in the defensive line. The focus was on concentrating mass to overwhelm a single point on the defense. While not as dramatic as the full flying wedge, these plays contributed significantly to the injury rates and perception of football as a gladiatorial blood sport. The rules eventually evolved to curtail these mass plays as well. Restrictions were placed on which players could be in motion, how many players could be in the backfield, and how linemen had to be positioned. Popular belief is Teddy Roosevelt intervened and saved football in 1905. This is largely myth because in 1909 there was a bigger existential crisis as players continued to be killed because of mass play. The forward pass was legalized in 1905, but it took until 1912 until rules changes required 7 players on the line and relaxed restrictions on the forward pass opened up the game and moved it away from the pure mass momentum ground attacks. Now, I'm summarizing a lot here, and if you want to know more, please watch my playlist about the beginning of football, which covers the years from 1869 to 1912. So now that we have a picture of what true historical mass plays entailed, let's break down why the tush push isn't exactly a mass play in the historical sense. First, there's no pre-snap momentum from the pushers. This is crucial. In the old flying wedge formation that was banned in 1894, players would start moving before the snap, building up dangerous momentum before impact. In the tush push, Jalen Hurts and his teammates behind him are completely stationary until the ball is snapped. They're generating force from a standing start, not a running one. Second, the Eagles maintain legal offensive line positioning. Historical mass plays like guards back or tackles back pulled linemen away from the line to lead interference, blocking, with momentum. But in the tush push, the offensive linemen stay in their legal positions on the line of scrimmage, engaging the defensive line directly as they would on any running play. Third, the focus is entirely different. The tush push is about supporting the ball carrier, not decimating defenders. Historical mass plays were designed to concentrate blockers to obliterate a specific section of the defensive line. The tush push is more about creating a sustained push of the ball carrier himself. Defenders are trying to stop Hurts, not absorb the full impact of multiple human projectiles aimed directly at them. Fourth, today's NFL has extensive safety rules that didn't exist a century ago. In early football, there was no neutral zone, so players literally lined up head to head and many times started play by slugging each other. Modern regulations govern how offensive and defensive linemen can engage, with restrictions on chop blocks, blocks below the waist, and how players can use their hands. Despite all the scrutiny, the tush push hasn't resulted in the catastrophic injury patterns that forced the banning of historical mass plays. The tush push may seem unstoppable at times, but it's simply the latest chapter in football's long history of tactical innovation, a far cry from the legitimately dangerous mass plays that were rightfully banned over a century ago. So, where does that leave us with the tush push or the brotherly shove? It's a brilliantly designed and executed play that leverages the unique talents of Jalen Hurts and the power of the Eagles' offensive line. It's a testament to creative coaching and player buy in. Is it frustrating for defenses? Absolutely. Is it the prettiest play in football? Probably not to everyone. Does it create a chaotic scrum at the goal line? Undeniably. But is it a mass play in the vein of the flying wedge, the formations, guards back or tackles back, those brutal, momentum driven formations that legitimately threatened player lives and the future of the sport a century ago? No. The historical context and the specific mechanics of the plays are worlds apart. The tush push operates within the confines of modern rules designed to prevent those very dangers. For now, the tush push stands a fascinating example of how teams innovate within the existing rules of the game, whether we like it or not. It's a modern marvel of short yardage efficiency, not a dangerous echo from football's more perilous past. It's a reminder that football is constantly evolving, and what seems controversial today might just be tomorrow's accepted strategy, or eventually a footnote in the rulebook after a future committee decides it's time for another change. That's the beauty of the game.